Welcome back to the Richard Sherman podcast. And it was another incredible week, but unfortunately, the San Francisco 49ers lose 26-21 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. One of the worst games I've seen them play in a very long time. I can't say both sides of the ball because I felt like the defense in the second half really picked it up and started to figure it out. But offensively, that was bad football. I mean, not in terms of moving the ball. They threw for 300 yards. They ran for about 83, which is lower than Kyle would want, I'm sure. But it just was a sloppy game, an uninspired game. They gave up a touchdown on special teams on a punt return, and nobody was even close. It looked like a practice rep. Multiple interceptions by Brock Purdy, and then a fumble by Eric Armstead of all people at the end of the game. It was disastrous. But I know you're feeling good, Mitchell. It was tough sledding there early against the Cleveland Browns. It still is one of the top defenses in the National Football League, and they have a lot of guys that can do it. But your Detroit Lions slowly but surely got the engine turning and pulled it off. Tell me how you feeling.
Oh, they're starting to look like a juggernaut, Richard. I'm certainly going into Sunday a lot more at ease with these last 3 weeks. And listen, the Cleveland Browns, they're the 1-3 Cleveland Browns, but reality is they just beat one of the best teams in the league in the Green Bay Packers last week. So coming into this week, the Lions are on high alert. Cleveland trots in, statistically the number one defense in the league, and Detroit took care of business 34-10. And we saw it all over the field. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2 touchdowns. Gibbs, 91 rushing yards. And it's just right now, it's a combination of a couple of things. For one, this defense is looking dynamic. They're looking like one of the best defenses in the league, which I myself might have called at the beginning of the year. But the more surprising thing is this offensive line, Richard. They're replacing 2 key components right in the middle, and Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler, and they insert a rookie right from Georgia, Tate Ratledge, offensive guard, is going right next door to Christian Mahogany. Now, Richard, these 2 guys are turning into absolute studs right in front of our eyes, and it's giving the Lions that extra cushion with their salary cap. If you think about it, between those 2 players, they're both on rookie deals, right? Their interior of their offensive line is probably making about $12 million collectively. That is a huge opportunity for the Lions to continue to build this roster. But to give up 0 sacks for the second week in a row with this young offensive line, Detroit's got to feel very, very good about what's ahead the rest of the season. Richard, I want to talk a little bit about the secondary, though, because I know you love you some Terrion Arnold. I know you love you some DJ Reed. Reality is we saw one of the guys in Terrion have a reduced role this week, and he gets another penalty, and we see DJ Reed go out with what looks like a meaningful hamstring injury. Let's start with Terrion, Richard. He's struggled of recent. He has not been able to stay off the penalties off of his back. And we see another one today. What is your advice for a young player like him who's going through the motions but has the talent?
You just got to stop pressing. Just do your job. Trust your technique. I'm sure that's exactly what the coaches are telling him. You got to trust your technique. You feel like you're pressing. You want to cover so well. You want to do things so well. Sometimes it's less is more, and that's where you got to get to is less is more. But I got to get back to the San Francisco 49ers and complete that little recap because that was awful. And I want the people to understand that. And we'll finish off your Detroit Lions. But Brock Purdy is back. I think if Mac Jones wasn't hurt as badly as he was, I think he starts this game. You could see the rust. Obviously, Brock completed some really good passes, but you could see the rust. The offensive line, again, he was under duress. The pockets were collapsing, but he had adequate time. There weren't very many holes for Christian McCaffrey to work his way through. Way, way, way too many drops from the wide. I can't just say the wide receivers because there was everybody, the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight ends. Everybody had a hand in dropping passes in this game, and still they had a chance to win because they're a really good team, and Jacksonville isn't a great team. But to turn the ball over, what did it end up being? Three times? Or it might have been 4. It was 4. Four turnovers. To turn the ball over 4 times in any game is unacceptable. That's an unacceptable thing to do, and I'm sure Kyle Shanahan is going to have his foot deep in a lot of people's rear ends because that's not 49ers football. And those drops are just they weren't all difficult passes. You know, some of them were high. I think the one Christian that ended up getting picked by Lloyd was high, but there were some that were right in the gut. I thought the one KB dropped was right in his hands in a play that I've seen him make a lot of times. I thought Christian dropped the easy one. I thought there was it just seemed like Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And defensively, they start the game off giving Travis Etienne a 48-yard touchdown, almost untouched, down the sideline. That was, oh my God, that was disappointing. And then to let them drive 13 or 14 plays, whatever it was, all the way down the field after giving up a 3rd and long to Travis Hunter, a 28-yard gain when they were backed up. If you get that stop, it's an entirely different game. And it looked like they had a chance to get the ball out, but still an unacceptable play by that defense. But after that, the defense only gave up 3 points, I want to say. They gave up 2 touchdowns early. They gave up 3 points in the second half. And then there were other things that happened. The special teams gave up punt return, as we said. And again, the offense had a chance to win the game with 3 minutes to go, driving down the field, a good pass to Christian McCaffrey, and then you can't have that fumble. You cannot have that play. You have to protect the football. And it just seemed like everybody was going through the motions this game. I don't know why. I love this team. I love watching them, but that just felt like everybody was going through the motions. Like, hey, we're 3-0. You know, maybe you're looking forward a little bit to the Rams game. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that, you know, it's the NFC West is really tight right now. Everybody's 3-1 at the top. The Rams pull out a tough win against the Indianapolis Colts. The Seattle Seahawks pull off a win against the Arizona Cardinals. And the San Francisco 49ers lose a game that they probably should have won and could have easily won, a team that they were better than, and they did not win. So this is going to be a tough division. 3-1 at the top, 3 teams tied. And you got a tough Rams team who's battle-tested, who played a great game at home last week and who are playing at home again on Thursday night. You got to pick it up, lick your wounds, and figure it out. It's a short week, and guys got to come back locked in, and they got to run the ball better. They got to move people. Now, you got to give the Jacksonville Jaguars credit. They have a good defensive line. Their defense has been phenomenal. 3+ turnovers in every single game. They're making plays. They're forcing the issue. The San Francisco 49ers defense had some opportunities. I thought the Upton Stout interception was a phenomenal play. I thought that was a horseshit call. I thought that was BS. There's no way you called that after an interception. I mean, there's a little push and pull in every play. That wasn't enough to affect the play in that way. You got to give him that. And I thought Fred had a couple opportunities. He punched the ball out. There were a couple tips that bounced his way, and he couldn't quite bring him in. I'm sure he's kicking himself for that, but he was around the ball. But eventually you got to get an interception. This defense has to get a turnover. You got to give the offense another possession, especially when they're playing like this. But going back to your Detroit Lions, it's tough because you guys dealt with a lot of injuries last year. So to have the injuries in the secondary that you're having right now, both starting corners banged up, one of your safeties is banged up, after playing a really solid game, getting 2 big turnovers in that game, it's frustrating, but it's a next man up in mentality. It has to be. You don't have a choice. Hopefully those guys are healthy. Hopefully they get back soon, but you got to go next man up. This team is rolling offensively, and nobody's going to wait for you. Nobody's going to wait for you to get healthy. That's for sure.
That's no question about that, but it's a good thing to see, Richard. They're clicking on all cylinders. I'm sorry about your San Francisco 49ers. I really am. They're going to be in a dogfight in that NFC West. And we just saw the hat change, Richard, because they're tied neck and neck with the Seattle Seahawks top that division with the Rams. But let's talk about this Rams team right now, because the Colts come to town. One of your new favorite players of the year, Indiana Jones, trots out to L.A. and they kept this game really competitive. Ultimately, LA ended up pulling off the win. Stafford goes for 375 and 3 touchdowns. Puka Nacua, holy cow, can this guy ever be stopped? 13 receptions for 170 yards and a touchdown. He is the new Cooper Kupp out there, right, Richard? I mean, what is your thoughts on this LA Rams team? I know you're going to see him firsthand on Thursday night. What are your thoughts on this team? Because to me, personally, I believe they're the best team in the NFC West. Just top to bottom, I think they got wreckers defensively, especially on the D line, and offensively. I mean, we're seeing Puka Nacua become this absolute star. And Matthew Stafford just continues to be his consistent self. What's your thoughts on this Rams team?
I thought offensively they really caught fire after struggling early on. Stafford throws for 375 and 3 touchdowns. He was only sacked 3 times, and I mean, I thought they were beating him up a little bit. But watching this game, I thought they benefited from some things. You know, Adonai Mitchell had a touchdown. He had a touchdown, big touchdown, where he spent off, ran it in, and literally dropped the ball at the goal line for a touchback. Literally erased the touchdown off the board in this game. And I think that was the difference in the game. That's when a lot of things started turning around. Another huge play in the game. The defender falls, guarding Tutu Atwell, and it ends up being an 88-yard touchdown, a one-play touchdown when the game is tied up. And, of course, Matthew Stafford does not miss layups like that, and he hit him right on the numbers. Tutu Atwell runs it in, a speedy guy. His only catch of the day, 88-yard touchdown. So I still think the Indianapolis Colts and Indiana Jones are legit. He did throw 2 interceptions in this game. Great plays by the defense. Cam Curl had one of them. But you can't have those mistakes against a really good team like the Los Angeles Rams. Like you said, their front causes a lot of issues and held them in check for the most part. They held Jonathan Taylor in check for the most part. He still had 17 carries for 76 yards, and he had another big-time mistake on Adonai Mitchell. He had a 51-yard run where he was contained and broke 2-3 tackles and ran it in for a 51-yard touchdown, and they called it back because of a holding call on number 10, Adonai Mitchell. And that's backbreaking. That's backbreaking. One guy single-handedly might have lost him this game. And so while I give the Rams a ton of credit, I got to say that Colts beat themselves in this game. I mean, one guy beat them. He took 2 touchdowns off the board, and they lost by 7. And you can't have it. You really can't have it. I'm looking forward to this game in L.A. Versus the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's going to be a dogfight. The division games always are. McVay versus Shanahan always is. Those games are always close. You know what they're going to – they know each other so well. Defensively, I know Robert Saleh is going to have these guys rearing to go. Chris Shula is going to have his guys rearing to go. That D-line, the San Francisco 49ers offensive line has to figure out a way to open up some holes. They have to find some room for Christian McCaffrey, and maybe you got to run Brian Robinson a little bit more than they're running him. I think he has to have a bigger role in this offense for them to really get going. There are so many injuries right now. Hopefully, they start to get healthier and get guys back. But man, they couldn't have played much worse than the San Francisco 49ers couldn't have played much worse than they did today. And then you got the Seattle Seahawks. That's why I'm wearing a hat, because to the winner goes the spoils. The Seattle Seahawks played really good football. Both sides of the ball, all 3 phases. They let the Arizona Cardinals back in the game, gave up some uncharacteristic explosives late in that game that I'm sure they want back. But for all intents and purposes, Sam Darnold looks the part. He looks like a really good NFL quarterback. He looks like the guy that they paid. He looks a little underpaid right now with the way he's winning these ball games and pushing offense down the field and controlling these games. The word game manager is such a frowned upon phrase now. It's looked at so differently than it used to be, but he's managing the game so well, and that is winning football in the National Football League. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, the greatest football player for some people, and he would say himself, he's really a phenomenal game manager. He knows how to get the offense in position. He knows how to take what the defense gives him, not put the ball in harm's way, control the clock, understand the situations you're in, and that's what Sam Darnold is doing a great job of for the Seattle Seahawks week in and week out. If they didn't have that game against the San Francisco 49ers that was closer than the score would suggest, they could easily be undefeated. And I, again, feel like they're going to win this division, and it's going to be a tie with the San Francisco 49ers, but they're going to have the tiebreaker. I still feel that way. I felt like that early, and I still feel like that right now because of how they're playing and the injuries and things that the San Francisco 49ers are dealing with. They obviously missed Nicholas John Bosa today. You could see that. You could see the lack of pressure at times on Trevor Lawrence. Not that he had a huge game, but you needed to get him on the ground. You needed some turnovers. You needed some big plays, and you needed your closer out there, and he wasn't. So, Mitchell, it's an interesting league right now. But the Eagles-Bucs game looked like a blowout early, but it ended up being a game.
I can't really make much sense of this Philadelphia Eagles team because, they got one of the best wide receivers in football in A.J. Brown, and 3 of the first 4 weeks of the season, they haven't even thrown him the ball yet. They're still winning. They're still 4-0. They came out of the gates roaring, went up quick, double digits against the Bucs right away, and then the Bucs ultimately turned this thing around and make it a competitive game. The more I watch Baker Mayfield, Richard, the more I love the guy. I would love for him to be a quarterback of any team I root for. He's just such a gamer. Seeing him scramble out of the pocket and on 3rd and long, 4th downs and getting the first downs, and they really made this game more competitive than the score might have suggested. But let's talk about this Eagles team because, as they continue to win, to me, I just don't think they're the best team in the NFC. And I know they're number 1 on your power ranks, but I'm just not sold on it yet. How did they change their identity a little bit here? Because I know they got up so early, but statistically speaking, they got to start getting A.J. Brown and the receivers more involved in these games.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it statistically, their superstars on offense didn't have superstar kind of days outside of Jalen Hurts, and even he was 15 for 24 for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, managing the game and doing what is necessary to win these ball games is all that matters. Statistics don't really matter in this respect, and I think that's the way the Philadelphia Eagles are playing these games. They're not worried about putting up gaudy statistics. They targeted A.J. Brown 9 times in this game. He only had 2 catches for 7 yards. So it wasn't for a lack of them trying to get him the football, but I'm sure Todd Bowles understands who A.J. Brown is, and they've had some success against Jalen Hurts. And I think Jalen Hurts might have taken that personally in this game, and you could see he made a lot of big plays with his legs. They held Saquon Barkley in check, 19 carries for 43 yards, 2.3 a carry. They did what they could against Saquon Barkley, but they found Dallas Goedert for 2 touchdowns. And so again, no matter who you stop one guy, the next guy wins. You stop Saquon, then Jalen Hurts is gonna do it with his legs. You stop Jalen Hurts, then Saquon Barkley's doing them out the backfield catching the football. Devontae Smith will catch the football. He only had 2 catches in this game on 4 targets, but I really liked what I saw of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're a better team than people gave them credit to start this season. I think they obviously have won the NFC South 4 years in a row, and I think they got a good chance to win it this year. I really like the way Baker Mayfield's playing. I think he's playing at a top 5 quarterback level in the National Football League. To be able to do this without Mike Evans, they haven't been able to win a lot of games when Mike Evans is not in the lineup for obvious reasons. He's an incredible all-world Hall of Fame talent. That's a reason he's had so many yards. But the way Baker was moving around and finding guys, using his legs, hitting the open guy, he hit Emeka Egbuka on a 77-yard touchdown off a scramble, found him, threaded the needle between 2 defenders. It looked like a busted coverage. Then he found Bucky Irving on another 70-yard touchdown. Bucky Irving ended up being the leading receiver with 100 yards receiving, and Emeka had 100 yards receiving. So, again, this Philadelphia Eagles secondary can be had. And I think that's something different than it was a year ago. That's a vulnerability that wasn't as much last year. I thought they were one of the best secondaries in the National Football League. But when you lose big play Slay and you lose, C.J. Gardner-Johnson got cut from the Houston Texans, but he fit very well in this system. He did well. He played well. And sometimes when you lose veterans like that, it changes the dynamic, and there's been more mistakes in that secondary. But Cooper DeJean looked really good. They were trying him up at the outside corner today. He had some really, really good coverage reps against Emeka Egbuka, where he just played it square shoulders, great footwork, breaking on passes. I thought he looked in control. He looked dominant. And I thought Quinyon Mitchell looked the same. I thought he looked great in his. I think there was some next gen stat about tight window throws, and he had the most tight window. He forced the most tight window throws today, one of the highest in the National Football League in a long time. So you have the guys. They have talented players, but people are finding the others. People are finding the others to attack in this defense. They're not going at the strengths of the defense. But again, when you have Jalen Carter and guys like that, you're not just going to run the football on them all day, and you're not going to have a ton of success on the ground. But I think it might have just been the weather. We knew that the weather in Tampa is super hot and that it will get to them eventually. And I think after a while, it gets to everybody and it started to weigh on them. And guys, just natural fatigue. And you start to see Baker have a little bit more time. But I still feel like the best team in the National Football League right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. And until they lose, it's hard to say otherwise.
Let's talk about that same division, and this is the New York Giants. They host the LA Chargers today, and they shockingly get a win in Jackson Dart's first game as a starter, and he impressed early. I mean, you saw his mobility. You see why they like him. He gets in the end zone on his first possession of the day. This is big time for the New York Giants. They've been needing a quarterback for, it seems like, forever. And they finally have got some life. And as soon as they get some life, Malik Neighbors goes down with what is believed to be an ACL tear, out for the season. You absolutely hate to see it, but your initial impressions on Jackson Dart in his debut today?
I thought he had a solid debut, and obviously, all the online conversation about Russell Wilson and what we said on Thursday night after he was benched for Jackson Dart is the big story for everybody. But you saw the way the New York Giants played, not just offensively. Not that Jackson Dart had some gaudy numbers or he went out there and lit the world on fire. He just played solid football. He used his legs when he needed to. He was sacked 6 times, so it's not like the offensive line got way better between the two quarterbacks. But you saw the energy from the other side to the football. You saw the defensive line. I mean, they have one of the most talented defensive lines in the National Football League, but you saw them getting after it. Obviously, the Chargers are without Rashawn Slater and lost Joe Alt early in this game, 2 of the best tackles in the National Football League. You lose both of them. Any team that loses both their starting tackles is going to have a hard time. This is not the team you want to be playing against when you lose both your starting tackles. And I think that was evident. Brian Burns was all over the place. Abdul Carter was all over the place. Sexy Dex Lawrence batted pass, intercepted, returned it to the 5. They only end up getting a field goal out of that. If he would have tugged that would have been incredible. But even on special teams, they were making plays on special teams. They were playing with a renewed energy and swagger, and for them to play, which an opponent which might have been their toughest opponent of the year, with a rookie quarterback and come out of there with the win was incredible. And you could see this was kind of crazy, but you could see how Brian Daboll responded. I don't know if you saw it, Mitchell, but there was a clip of him and Jackson Dart after the game, and he was like head butting him, and they were face to face and hit, and he was just so excited with them, so hyped, like they're going to be doing this for a long time. And you could just see the love and appreciation and the belief and faith that he has in Jackson Dart. And I just don't remember him having that with Russell Wilson. And now that's going to start some speculation of its own, Mitchell, because just the way Brian Daboll approached the game, there were conversations. I think it was Connor Hughes who put out a video saying, there was 2 different playbooks, and guys felt like there were 2 different playbooks. There was a playbook that Russell Wilson had, and there was a playbook that was for Jackson Dart, and that's weird. I've never heard that in the NFL. I've never you hear about packages for guys if a young guy might have a zone read package or something like that, but the way they were talking about it, it was almost like, hey, they're not giving Russell Wilson the full playbook, but they're giving Jackson Dart the full playbook or vice versa. It was an odd thing to hear, but I thought Jackson Dart for his first start against a defense that's been playing really lights out in some big games, some competitive games. They played lights out against a lot of good opponents. I thought he played well, 13 for 20, 111 yards, a TD, and ran for a TD. I think for a rook, that's nice. That's solid, especially when you get sacked 6 times. They'll play worse teams in the future. I think they play the Saints next week, which isn't anything to sneeze at. I think people underestimate the Saints because they've been losing, but that defense has some guys that can go. But I think that'll be a confidence builder. And I know people were hesitant about Daboll's decision to play him versus the Chargers. I think they kind of considered this an automatic loss if he played Jackson Dart. And to see them play all these games, they played 3 games on the season, and the only win comes when the rookie gets on the field against a really, really talented a team that's well coached and playing well in the Chargers. It's really cool. It's really cool. I enjoyed that for him. I like that for Daboll. He saves his job for another week. Hopefully, they can have some sustained success and the Giants stick with him.
Richard, I'm going to ask you a tough question. What does this say about Russell Wilson? The team comes out, first week without him as a starter and gets a win and against a very tough opponent. What does this say about Russell Wilson?
I'm not sure it says anything about Russell Wilson as much as it says something about like new. New is better. Sometimes people like the new toy. And not that it's like when you get a new car. It could be a used car. It could be just a different car than the car you've been driving. But there's an excitement level. There's a fun about driving a different car. It might not even be better than the car you've been driving, but it's newer. It's different. It's fun. And I think that's what guys feel when you're losing. You just want to see something different. You just want to see a change. Maybe they were seeing things in practice that were exciting. Maybe the kid was making some plays. It was kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes when they, everybody, they were talking about him so much in practice and everything he was doing in practice, you kind of like knew eventually they're going to push Alex Smith out of here for some reason or another and play this kid because the team is talking about him too much. The excitement, the momentum is going too much. And I think sometimes when you have a guy sitting behind, especially a draft pick, no matter what, it's going to, unless you have immediate success, or unless Russell Wilson came out and won the first 3-4 games, the pressure to play him from a coach that's on the hot seat was going to be immense. And the only way he could guarantee that he saw Jackson Dart play and he got to coach him and got to at least put him on the field and see what he had was to make this decision. So I don't know. I think it was just the team, the new hotness, the new guy. And then the excitement that comes with that, the new different thing, the unknown. And now I would only guess that the momentum continues to grow from Giants fans and from everybody else with the first win of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the momentum's there, and you got to love their draft class, too. Abdul Carter has led all rookies with pressures on the season. And then the running back, Cam Scatterbo. I mean, this guy is made for New York football. Absolute bowling ball, all heart and hustle. 25 carries for almost 80 yards today. You got to love to see what they've done with this draft class, and there is at least some hope for the New York Giants going forward. Back to Russell quickly. Do you think that he sticks with the team through the rest of the year? Do you think they trade him? Do you think they give him the courtesy and waive him so he can go and sign with somebody like the Saints to continue starting? Or what do you think is going to go on with him?
I would have guessed they trade him. That would be my first guess. There are a lot of QB needy teams, and if they feel like they have a chance late in the season where they got to get enough roster and it's just a quarterback away, the Cincinnati Bengals come to mind right now, and or if somebody gets hurt. If somebody's starter gets hurt and they need a veteran guy and they know Russell Wilson can come in and make a difference or at least continue to keep them on the track to get where they think they're capable of getting. But I think the Giants will try to get something for him. I don't think they'll just trade him away for nothing. I don't think they'll release him for nothing. Maybe if it's past the trade deadline and a team loses a quarterback, I think they'll do him that courtesy. But again, just like today, Jackson Dart got a little banged up, and you needed Russell Wilson to come in and play for a couple snaps. Not that Jameis Winston couldn't do that, but it would take the right offer, and it would have to benefit the Giants in a big way, I would imagine. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. New customers can place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but also an extra $150 in bonus bets.
The leaves are falling, but the stakes are rising. Postseason baseball is here, and every swing could change the season. Step up to the plate and take your swing on Hard Rock Bet today. New customers can place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but also $150 in extra bonus bets.
Plus, every day this week on Hard Rock Bet, you can get a profit boost for a postseason baseball parlay. There's new promos every day. Boost your same game parlay or SGP Max so your bet pays extra winnings.
You want to see what everyone else is betting on tonight? Who's going to hit a homer, top picks, or parlays across any other sport? The Hard Rock Bet app literally shows you. It's another reason to download the app just for the info. Tap Discover, and you can see trending picks and parlays at any time.
Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit.
Let's move on to what many would consider to be the game of the week. 1-2 Kansas City Chiefs team hosting the 1-2 Baltimore Ravens. Both, all fans of football across the world have a lot higher hopes for both of these teams than 1-2 start. I think it's probably the biggest shocker in the NFL, news circuit right now is the fact that both these teams are 1-2, and one of them is going to be 1-3 leaving this game. Ultimately, it's the Baltimore Ravens. Richard, is it safe to say that the Baltimore Ravens are going to miss the playoffs? Statistically, and I know you're a big statistics guy, teams that start 1-3 have approximately a 14% chance of making the NFL postseason. The Baltimore Ravens find themselves in that exact position at 1-3. Do you see them missing the playoffs?
I don't think so. But if they did, so oh my God, is furniture going to be moving in Baltimore? I can't imagine what that fan base is going to do. I can't imagine. Obviously, that front office has been pretty stable and they've been pretty consistent. So John Harbaugh isn't going anywhere. But you could see the frustration even after a couple losses. And it's weird to just see them play without confidence offensively. After your Detroit Lions came in there, it's almost like they're shell-shocked. And you never see Lamar Jackson play where he looks hurried or rushed or panicky. He's not seeing the field well. He threw for 147 yards, a TD, but he threw an interception in this game, and he never looked comfortable. They only ran Derrick Henry 8 times in this ball game for 42 yards. That's not bad, but it doesn't look like they trust him. It doesn't look like they trust him. He's fumbled in big moments, but he's also been one of the most dominant running backs in the last decade. So I think there's some internal strifes in there, but they're a veteran team. They're going to figure it out. Mahomes threw for 270 and 4 touchdowns. He looked really good, dominated this defense, and I think that's where a lot of the turmoil will start on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, they're playing without Nnamdi Madubuike, who's one of their best players and a disruptor up front. But you still got guys in the back end, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphreys, that should be veteran guys that have played at a high level, that are all pros in this National Football League who weren't playing to the level that they played at in the past. And they gave up a lot of points. They gave up a lot of yards in this game, and it's uncharacteristic of a Baltimore Ravens defense. So that's the more disappointing part, is just like, man, you guys aren't playing up to the standard that the national public is used to the Baltimore Ravens playing up to. It's not even like, hey, you're not playing to an all-pro level. It's just, when you go watch the Baltimore Ravens play, you expect great defense, and they're not playing it. Or you expect Lamar Jackson to be dynamic and be dominant, or them to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. But for them to have, between Lamar Jackson passing and Derrick Henry's rushing, to be under 200 yards, is just not something I thought we would see in a full game, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a really good defense, and Spags calls a great game. But Derrick Henry and Lamar always gets theirs no matter what. So it's really disappointing, and it's probably a shell shock for that team to start 1-3, but I think they'll respond and come back. They're in a weaker division, and with the Cincinnati Bengals and without Joe Burrow, and the Cleveland Browns just lost to your Detroit Lions, and they have a great defense but struggling offensively. Flacco with some really, really head-scratching interceptions today. But no, I don't think they missed the playoffs.
What does this win say about the Kansas City Chiefs team, Richard? This team, it was like a lot of the national media wrote them off, and they said maybe this is a time that Kansas City just collapses. Started 1-2 with an only win of the season, a very unimpressive showing against the New York Giants last week. They come in this week, and it's like they took that personal, and they wanted to show. To everyone that they're still here. They're still the same team that goes to the Super Bowl every single year. They look dominant today. They definitely showed me, at least, that there's still somebody that you got to be very, very serious about long term. I'm assuming they might make a showing in the top 5 of Richard Sherman's power ranks here soon at some point if they continue playing like this. But what does a statement win like this, show to you about the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, they're a championship team. There's a reason they've been in the Super Bowl 5 of the last 6 years. So I'm not writing. I told you, I'm not writing them off. I don't care what their record is. They could be 0-6, 0-8. I was still, hey, I don't know. They're going to run because they've shown that, and as long as they still have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Spags, they're going to have a chance. And Trent McDuffie is still there playing good football. Nick Bolton, the guys, they still have a lot of the pieces on the championship team. They'll get Rashee Rice back. That'll be a big addition to their offense. Xavier Worthy obviously came back and made an impact today. Thornton was making an impact in his stead. They're still a team that can be very dangerous with a quarterback who can be the best in the National Football League when he's on. And so, no, I'm not going to count them out, and I wasn't going to count them out in the first place. I still think whether they're the 1 seed or the 7 seed, they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs, and nobody going to want to play them. You can be a dominant team, like it could be whoever it is. It could be the Buffalo Bills, and they feel really good, and they get the 2 seed or they get the 1 seed, and they got to play the Kansas City Chiefs in a divisional. They're not going to feel great about that. I know they're not. It's going to be nightmare. It's going to be traumatic. They're going to have nightmares before the game because of the history with Patrick Mahomes, and you know how dangerous he can be. No matter how it looked in the regular season, he's found a way. They've found a way. They've game planned right. They've showed up in big moments, and they found a way to win when winning was needed. So, no, I'm not counting out the Kansas City Chiefs. Not me. Unless one of those guys goes down with a season-long injury or something crazy, and even then, I have a hard time. I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want that, and nobody in the football world does. But I think they're going to have a chance, and they're going to be dangerous in the postseason. I don't even talk about the Chiefs into the postseason because the regular season don't matter. It's not going to matter what they're seeded. They're going to be a tough out.
This AFC West division is certainly looking like it's going to be a tight match all the way to the finish line, obviously, with the Chargers losing today. We'll see how the Broncos continue to play here. But the AFC North is, we just talked about it briefly with the Baltimore Ravens, but you got to look at the Steelers at some point here, Richard. They're 3-1 now with Aaron Rodgers. They go across the pond, play in Ireland. Our boy Big Play Slay's got to be happy coming back to the U.S. with a W. This is big time for them, and they get a bye week, and then they play the Browns, the Bengals, and then their schedule gets tough with the Packers and Colts. Theoretically, they should win their next 2 games and be 5-1. Do you believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers team at 3-1, top of their division?
Yes, I do, and the big reason is Aaron Rodgers. I know Aaron Rodgers, and I know he's looked rough the last couple of years. He tore his Achilles, and then he was coming back, but he's still Aaron Rodgers, and he still has a way about him. DK Metcalf is starting to find his rhythm in this offense. Aaron was an efficient 18 of 22 for 200 yards and a touchdown in this game. Metcalf had 5 catches for 126. You could see the chemistry between those guys developing and strengthening. You could see him hitting him on a back shoulder fade, the one-step hitches. Just getting him involved. Kenneth Gainwell had almost 100 yards today. He had 2 touchdowns. The defense had 2 interceptions and 6 sacks, and they were the object of a lot of scrutiny early in this season. And for them to go all the way over there, and everybody made a big deal about their plane, and the Minnesota Vikings had all the first-class seats and a nice, super nice plane, and the Pittsburgh Steelers rode over there old school. Hey, we getting there how we getting it how we live. And they played like that. They played like hungry dogs. They chased, they were aggressive, um, they were hungry. TJ Watt was making big impact plays. I thought he almost, well, he ended up having an interception in the game, but he had a number of plays where he made huge plays, batting the ball down, sacks, um, pressures, things like that. I think this team is getting back to where they need to be. And a bye week does nothing but help this veteran team. It looked like Jalen Ramsey got a little banged up, maybe a little hamstring strain. So a week off and some rest will help him, help them get even healthier and be better when they get back. But they're going to be a tough team. They're going to be a tougher out than they've been in the past with all these veterans and Rodgers at the helm. I think he and Tomlin are getting to know each other. There was a moment in the game where Aaron wanted to go for it. Tomlin obviously wanted the points. He succumbed to what Aaron wanted. They end up getting stopped on that play. Uh, and it gave the Minnesota Vikings a chance late in the game. And I think those are conversations. It's a great growing moment for both of them, but it's a growing moment in a win, which is much better and much easier to deal with than growing moments and losses. But I think that just goes to the respect that Tomlin has for Aaron Rodgers and what he's done in this league. And big play said they can be a splash play defense. There was a lot of splash plays today. But on the other side, Carson Wentz threw for 350 and 2 touchdowns. He threw the 2 interceptions that ended up being costly. Justin Jefferson, 10 catches for 126. So again, um, Kevin O'Connell was going to have a tough decision when J.J. McCarthy is healthy and ready to go because of how well Wentz is running this offense. Not that it's perfect by any means, because, he's taking sacks, he's getting beat up, he's making mistakes, the 2 interceptions, one of them was tipped up. But he's been better than McCarthy has been. He's been just a veteran in this offense, hitting the guys that are there, making the plays that are there. There were some high misses that he had, but I think that's going to be a tougher decision for Kevin O'Connell than it would have been if he hadn't played as well as he's playing.
Yeah, no question about it. The Vikings are in unfamiliar territory, and that's losing football games. They were 14-3 last year. This year they're 2-2. They don't look like the same team without Sam Darnold, who's over in Seattle now. And like you've mentioned a number of times, you thought it was a mistake that they didn't bring him back. And I'm thinking that the Minnesota fan base is probably starting to think that same way. Sure, Carson Wentz steps up there and has a good statistical game, but the reality is, this doesn't look like the same Minnesota Vikings team. Let's see if they can bounce back next week. It is good to see Justin Jefferson getting more involved, though. It was a slow start to the year for him, but 10 receptions for 126, and they're going to stick over across the pond. They play in London next Sunday. Richard, what is your thoughts on
That's just rude. They put them in international
2
weeks
weeks in a row? So they're
that's
sticking
tough.
sticking over there for another week. I mean, do you think these games are getting out of hand? Like, I like the fact that they're doing them, in Brazil and South America, but like these 9:30 a.m. Eastern time starts. I mean, let's be real. Are you jumping out of bed at 6:30 in the morning Pacific time to flip on a football game? It just doesn't seem like real football when it's that early.
Well, I definitely jumped out of the bed and watched it today, and I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed DK Metcalf's 80-yard touchdown run. I enjoyed Aaron playing well and, getting a rushing first down and then fumbling the football and then laughing about it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fun to see, but I would not enjoy it if I was a member of the Minnesota Vikings and I had to fly from Ireland to London and be away from my family for 2 weeks to play the game that we've been playing from home just to make people happy. I make international folks happy. Like you could have another team. Like give us a couple weeks break and let us do it again. But I don't know. I think they might have a little bit of advantage if they're already over there and they get to spend a week and acclimate. But it's not. It's negligible. Whoever wakes up and is ready to go. The Minnesota Vikings hadn't lost internationally until today when the Pittsburgh Steelers got them. So that was something. So maybe they have a different understanding and agreement with the league, and they just know how to do it well. But that Browns defense isn't anything to play with. It is nothing to joke with. after Flacco's play, I'm not sure if the Browns start to consider a change at quarterback potentially, but their defense is still playing well. But I would not appreciate that, Mitchell. I would not appreciate being international 2 weeks in a row. I mean, I'm sorry. I love, I'm more for growing the game and all that, but like, let me go home.
Richard, before we wrap things up here, we got to just talk a little bit about Ashton Jeanty, that the number 6 overall pick goes to play for your former head coach, Pete Carroll. And everyone's just kind of been waiting for him to break out. You've seen kind of glimpses here and there. I think the statistic was he had more rush yards after contact than he did rushing yards, I want to say. It was something like it was 1 for 1. So this guy was getting hit in the backfield all the time. They finally gave him some running lanes today to work with, and he showed why he was picked number 6 overall, going for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 receiving and 1 rushing. That's a big deal for him. Unfortunately, the Las Vegas Raiders do not pull off the win. They go down in similar fashion to what we saw last week numerous times with blocked field goals. Again, rears itself today. Richard, what's the deal with all these blocked field goals?
I don't know. That's a great question. Some of it is just offensive lines not being as strong as they used to be and not being able to sustain against some of these stronger defensive linemen. Some of it is these corners timing it up well and that simple hand release tactic that most field goal teams use is predictable. And sometimes they switch it up, but if you guess it right and you time it right, it seems like more and more teams are taking that risk and going for it and guessing right. And that's just what happened today. The Bears were able to block one, and that saved the game for them because if the Raiders make that field goal, they win that football game. So big win for the Bears, tragic loss for the Raiders. But shout out to Ashton Jeanty. Big run, big rush yards today, 3 touchdowns. Happy for the kid. Hat tip to the kid. He deserves it. He's been getting a lot of scrutiny and a lot of he's a bust. He's a bust conversation. So it's great to see him have some success. Uh, Always happy to see that. The Bills are 4-0 now. I'm not sure. Are they head and shoulders above every other team in the AFC? I'm not sure. But Josh Allen gives them that advantage. Like, without Josh Allen, no, they're not. But they have Josh Allen, and he's the reigning MVP of the National Football League. And so he's getting them over the top. This game against the Saints was closer than it probably needed to be. But again, Josh Allen decided, I don't want it to be that close anymore. And he took over the game, made huge plays, showed that he's the difference. He's the gap between the next teams in the AFC. And not that he's a greater quarterback than everybody else, but his team and what he needs to do, he's playing outstanding football and he's putting them over the top. And I don't think there's a team in the AFC better than them. I'm not sure. They won't go undefeated because no team goes undefeated, but they're going to be a tough team to beat consistently, especially when they're playing in Buffalo. But yeah, I think they're the best team in the AFC. I'm not sure if they're head and shoulders, and I don't think they're better than Philadelphia Eagles. If you put a gun to my head today and ask me, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team, and which is why they are 1 and 2 in my power rankings.
There you go. Wow, we can get to 3, 4, and 5 later because I know we got some other guys yet to play here, specifically the Green Bay Packers, who are on the cusp of your top 5. I know. Before we leave this, Richard, the quote of the day comes from Cam Ward of the Tennessee Titans. He was asked about what they thought about his team, and he said, if we keep it a buck right now, we're ass. I mean, do you appreciate this candor for him, or do you think he needs to kind of you think this is out of line?
It's not out of line. It's just honesty from a quarterback, but his team isn't good enough overall. And so if this was a veteran team, a team like if he was playing for the Minnesota Vikings and they were a 14-win team last year and they just aren't playing good and they've lost a couple games, you can't say it. And the veterans aren't going to allow you to say it. And you're not perfect enough. You don't have the credibility to say it. And so I think that speaks to the point. You got to have the credibility with great play. All pro quarterbacks, all pro players, Super Bowl winners, guys that are established in this league, they can say things like that. If Aaron Rodgers came out and said, hey, we played like ass today, we played like crap, we got to be better than that, it's Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP, Super Bowl champion. You're not going to be able to say much to him. If Tom Brady comes out and says it, if Matthew Stafford comes out and says it, again, they have credibility. When you're a rookie quarterback, although you were the first pick in the draft, I don't think you can get away with saying that without ruffling feathers in your locker room because they're a veteran guy. Sure, it's not going your way right now. You've lost 3 games. You've played the Rams, the Broncos, and you just lost to the Colts, a division loss, and then you lose this game. So, sure, you could say, "Hey, we're not playing very well right now," but saying it that way, it encapsulates the whole team, and that's the mistake. As a quarterback, you have to say, "I'm not playing good enough right now," and it sucks because even if you feel like you are playing good enough, that's the responsibility the quarterback has. That's leadership. That's all the things you talk about from great quarterbacks. You say, "Hey, this is on me. I got to play better. There's some things I can do to put my teammates in better positions to win the football game. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, study the tape, and see what we can do better." But this is a frustrating feeling right now to not play up to the standard that we know we're capable of. But we'll get back to it next week. We'll flush this one and get back to the drawing board. That's all you got to say. That's all you got to say. You can't say that because you're the leader of the team and you're the voice of the team. And when you say that, you piss other guys off who are like, "I'm playing well. I'm playing hard. I'm doing my job." And if you did your job, then you start to get the finger pointing and it starts to tear a locker room apart, Mitchell. So you can't be careful with that, young Cam.
Well, Richard, that concludes Week 4's Sunday night recap. I will let you sign us off, my friend.
As always, it's been a nice week. I'm sorry for the San Francisco 49ers faithful fans. It was a rough one. It was a rough one. They got to play better than that, and they will play better than that. I can't wait to see you guys on Thursday night. I will be there in LA for Thursday night football. Check us out, TNF tonight, starting 4 p.m. Pacific until the game starts at 5:15 Pacific time. It's going to be a fantastic division game. I can't wait to see you there. For all you other fans, congratulations on your team's winning, or keep hope alive if your team lost today. It ain't over yet. It's a long season, and you never know what can happen. This is the NFL. As always, we appreciate you joining us. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we sure do appreciate it. All love.